So it looks like we're getting our first official Red Bull clone already in the Singapore Grand Prix. I mean, I expected it for 2024, but it looks like Alphatauri is already coming with the upgrades to make their car look much like the Red Bull. And I have some things to discuss. First of all, what team they're going to be next year, like what's their name going to be, how the livery is going to look, and what's going to be revolved around their teammates. Then I want to talk about why copying actually doesn't really work that much, and the actual upgrades themselves. I want to go over it all for Alphatauri. So let's start off with the Hugo Boss Racing team. So in this article that just recently came out, the 9th of September, so 2 days ago, Hugo Boss F1 team. This is how they kind of made the livery look, and I wanted to hear your guys' opinion on it because I think it's pretty cool. We know that Boss, the clothing brand, they love that little bit of like gold that they have, and they usually just have it like black and white as well. So I can expect a white and black livery with those accents that they have in their clothing line. I think it'll look very slick for the car. The Alphatauri did not look great this year. I don't hate the car like most people do, but I don't love it either. In 22, I didn't like the car either. In 21, I love the car. But 22 and 2023, the cars have been kind of hit or miss for me. They're not the greatest looking liveries, but they're also not the greatest cars. Let's be honest, the 22 and the 23 cars aren't great. So you don't get that much screen time with them, and then you just start not to like them. This will be their next title sponsor. I already discussed this in a video, and I think that with this coming, this will actually make the team revolve a lot more around Daniel Ricciardo, because with a new brand, with a new team, why not have the guy that's the most marketable driver on the grid? Why would you not take that opportunity to use that to your advantage? Use Daniel Ricciardo. And I think Daniel Ricciardo would be the perfect person to uplift or upbring this type of team. Now, who they have in the second seat, I'm really inching towards Liam Lawson and Yuki not getting that seat. I think that's what's going to happen. I just made a video the other day ago about Yuki's seat being under threat. There's more continued talk and speculation over the whole entire CEO situation, to where he's just blatantly saying that he wants Daniel Ricciardo in that seat and has said nothing about Yuki. He even talked about Lawson in the recent interview, saying that he has performed great for his 2 drives that he's had. So, I don't know. I'm leaning a lot more towards that Daniel Ricciardo and Liam Lawson pairing. I think it would be an awesome pairing to watch. I would really feel bad for Yuki, but it is F1 and this is just kind of how things happen. So it wouldn't actually shock me if this was the case. Now I wanted to talk about the actual copying, because this is what we're expecting. We're expecting an Alphatauri car to come looking like a Red Bull. They even say it here, like blatantly they're talking about the upgrades, and I'm going to discuss them even more. I just want to say though, if you copy a car like Racing Point did for Mercedes in 2020, yes, the car was substantially faster to its predecessor before, but why did that work, and why will this Alphatauri car struggle a bit more than the actual Racing Point or Tracing Point, whatever you want to call it? The actual Racing Point car copied even the internal parts, copying the brake ducts, copying like certain specific parts that are now outlawed to copy. Now you can grab parts like suspension and gearboxes, and the way that some particular setups are made, you can kind of just see it off of the Red Bull. So they'll probably pick up the undercut setup. They already have the floor. The floor is almost identical to the Red Bull. Now, obviously they don't have the kicks and the steps like the Red Bull does, because they are not that advanced, and this team of engineers isn't Red Bull engineers. They're still their own team. So the floor will never get to that pace because the team just isn't to that level. Now, they did see the floor in Monaco, so I'm wondering if they're going to go with the same concept for next year. Will that bring the car a lot of performance? If everything goes correctly, it could bring them a lot of performance. Now, their chassis right now, their internal part of their car, what's actually holding the whole entire car together, is probably not similar to the Red Bull. If you look at the Alphatauri car, there aren't that many similarities. They still have that kind of double divot in their side pod. They tried going for a bit of an undercut, but it's still like their own type of thing. The side pod itself is almost like a slide pod in a way towards the back. The only thing that is practically identical is the way the Venturi tunnels go to the back of the car. So bringing a different aero kit to the top of the car will actually significantly impact them at this point, because the actual floor concept is similar to the Red Bull. The news of these upgrades, they literally just dropped, so that's why it's not in my biggest upgrades video from yesterday. It just dropped like not too long ago that the AOT 04 is going to be a lot faster. That's how this article is really named. Talking about that they will be bringing upgrades that are trying to mirror the actual RB19. And as I expected, I thought this was going to come in 2024, but why not? The regulations are the same from 23 to 24. They have budget left to spend over. I guarantee they probably do. Or Red Bull's giving them a little bit more budget. Copy the car. I mean, for their case, I can see this being beneficial. As a Alphatauri team, the second team to Red Bull, I can see as to why you would want to bring a car that is pretty much identical to your real big team. And I see the benefits to this for them. They've been a car that's been behind. In 21, when the car was pretty similar to its Red Bull team, it was a very fast car. Now, in 22, they decided to diverge from that whole entire picking up the parts and doing everything Red Bull way. They wanted to make it their own. They wanted to be the own Alphatauri team. And what happens? They failed miserably. They did not do good. Gasly had a miserable year. Their brakes are awful, by the way. Their brakes still suck, so Singapore is going to be tough. But regardless of that, though, the car in general has not been the same that it has been from years before. So, teams complaining. Red Bull doesn't want to be seen as associated with the sister team if they're doing this horribly. So now they're looking for a new sponsor, going to copy the car, be a faster car. I'm not a fan of when teams copy other teams because I think that's really mindless innovation. You're not actually doing your own thing and you're just picking up off of another team. But if you're a sister team and if you're already in the sport of F1, which in my personal opinion, I never thought sister teams were a good thing. I thought that, honestly, Alphatauri and the team that's about to copy Red Bull, which is Haas, in the Austin GP, both those teams that are just copying and going with this, I mean, look at the Haas car. The Haas car is a copy of the Ferrari and has some of the Ferrari philosophies. Fast in qualifying, shreds its tires, great on warming up its tires, but also screws it in the race. So yes, it will pick up on some of those traits, even though the floor of the actual Haas is nothing like the Ferrari. Like, it's so much more simplified, yet again, they still have the same issues. This is mainly because of the suspension that they pick up, but also with the aero kit that they have. So the same thing with Alphatauri. They will, I mean, there's not really much problems to pick up off of the RB19, but to their own simplicity, they will pick up some gain, but it's not going to make them contenders with Aston Martin and Mercedes and with Ferrari. Realistically, they might just be a team that's probably around that Alpine level, probably fighting with the Williams and Haas on a better pace now, or Williams and Alfa Romeo, really. Haas is in its own different league with its tires. So it will make them a faster car, but it's not going to make them this new line of car. But what is expected to be brought to this car? Well, it's going to be the side pods. Side pods is a big thing that they're going to do. They're probably going to bring the undercut. I don't think they're going to make them as skinny as these really paper plane side pods that we have right now for the Red Bull. It's not going to look like that, but it could look very similar to, it's probably second version in Baku. I'll put it up on the screen. Baku and the Alphatauri car right now. I would expect a change there in the side pods with the way the airflow goes. Their engine cover is pretty similar. I already talked about the floor, but the top of the floor is also kind of similar. As you can see, both the floors have these 3 little rings on it, making the car pretty similar in some aspects, and probably looking on its big Red Bull team as to like where are they finding this performance in their floor. Their front wing is also a bit odd and kind of to their own. They have upgraded it throughout the season, and their upgrades have not been bad so far, but yet again, you want to pick up from the bigger team. Front wing is probably going to be changed, especially the way that the airflow from the front wing is going into the floor and feeding into the car. I think this is where they're probably going to get their biggest gains. They already changed their rear wing to a more Aston Martin and Mercedes type of rear wing to where they cut off the back part to actually have less drag. So they're moving in the right direction. I really don't expect this Alphatauri team to now be some insane challenger, but I do expect them to be faster coming into the next Grand Prix. But what are your thoughts? I want to hear everybody's opinion on the whole entire copying thing that's happening, because we're about to see some Red Bull clones very fast. We might even see Ferrari next year look like a Red Bull clone. So do you guys agree with the whole copying thing? And do you think the teams need to do it just to step up? I, in some ways, can see it as to a performance gain, not a performance gain. Just let's get some close racing. Would be honestly fun. I don't really care if it's a complete copy, but we get very close racing, but some parts are innovative. I think that would be better, but let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you guys say, and what are your thoughts on Alphatauri? Will they actually come into the Singapore Grand Prix fighting for some points? Can Yuki get better than the P10? Let me know your thoughts down below. Please leave a like, subscribe, it'd mean the world, and peace.